Hi, my name's Ztarli, and in this video I'll be drawing a commission for Xanti. Now we are actually using a sketch that I had already done for Xanti during the process of coming up with their previous commission, and they like this sketch as well, so they wanted it done as well. And at the moment I'm just sketching out a scale, as there are going to be some little bear cubs in this picture, and I wanted to make sure I got the scale right for Xanti's dragon, so that you can sort of get a sense of size for the creature. Now, this is a long video, so I probably won't talk for the entire time, and I will make sure I have chapters, so if you want to jump forward to specific bits, they'll be easy to find. This colouring process took me 6 hours and 40 minutes in total, including this little bit of sketching at the start. I do use several custom brushes for the background of this image, so you'll see later in the video there'll be quite a lot of orange bordered brushes coming up, and they're all custom brushes that I made. But for the character itself, I only used the bamboo brush with the felt smudge tool, which is how I like to colour most of my characters. So to start with, I just sort of sketch out an idea for the background, so I just chuck a gradient down and put some blobby flowers around and have some sun shining, just to make sure that this is the kind of feel Xanti is after. And once I've confirmed that's what they like, then I get to work doing the flats for the dragon itself, and I get stuck into shading the character pretty much straight away. I decided not to do a line art process for this, since the last time I did do line art for them, I ended up painting over all of the line art anyway, so we thought we'd just skip that stage and go straight to painting. As you can see, I'm just laying down the colours. I have got my reference pictures for the character in the background, so it is a little bit hard to see what's going on, but I wanted to make sure I was sticking to the same colours that we'd used originally. And this is supposed to be a chibi-fied version of the dragon, so as was the previous image. So you can see the two references I've got are also a chibi version. There's also the original adult or normal version of the dragon you can occasionally see in the top right. For those of you who have not watched my previous video or don't know how I like to colour, basically this is how I do it. I put down a flat colour and then I start mixing colours in together. So I'll just grab another colour and paint it with the opacity down on top of the original colour. Then I'll come along with the smudge tool and I'll blur the colours together to create a new colour, and then I'll teardrop that and paint with that as well. And I just keep doing that over and over again until I'm happy with the form of the creature I'm painting. Then later on I may create a shadow layer to add some darker areas where shadow is cast from the character, and occasionally I'll also do a highlight layer. I do that for this drawing for both of those things, and you'll see me doing that near the end of the video. I kind of do this picture in two sort of stages. So at the moment you can see I'm painting the character, then I'll stop and have a break from doing the character, and I'll actually work on the background quite solidly for a while. Then I return back to the character again and start integrating colors from the background, and then finally returning to the background again to integrate the background into like the grass and stuff that should be in front of the feet. I do that after I finish painting the character completely. At this stage I do decide to separate the head from the body so I can easily position it, and I can paint the pieces of the dragon that are behind the head. So from this point on, the head is actually on a separate layer to the body. So now I'll just let you watch me as I paint the character, and then I'll chime back in when we reach the background components, as there are a couple of things I want to mention as I paint the background. So I've started painting the background. I start with just using my normal bamboo brush and smudging with the normal felt brush. But once I reach the grass, I'll be using a couple of different brushes. I originally started off with all of the background being on one layer and just painting the grass using the bamboo brush, but I didn't like how things were going, so in the end I kind of just smudged this all in together, and I actually decided to split the sections up. So I have the sky on a different layer, the hills in the background on a different layer, the foreground on a different layer, and there is also a very forefront layer that just has some grass and flowers on it that's blurred. So here I am adding in the mountains, which are on their own layer at the moment, and again just using the bamboo brush, but I do switch to my custom wood brush to add the texture to the rock. I super love this brush. It was an accident. I made it whilst making my video on how to create brushes in Artflow, and I've been in love with it ever since. I use it as many times as I possibly can. So now I start experimenting with different brushes for blades of grass. I originally used this chisel pen, but I encounter this strange issue, which is I know it's a sort of a tapered brush, so on different angles it paints different ways, but I tried to make it look the same on both sides of the canvas. I even flipped the canvas and paint on the other side, but for some reason the brush retains the same orientation even when the canvas is flipped, which is really weird. I thought I'd be able to sort of bypass it by flipping the canvas, but it just didn't work. So I do end up ditching this brush as well. I also have switched to the rusty brush for blurring. So there's this sort of dragged effect looking on the grass. And then I come back in with a new brush which I created for the sole purpose of painting grass. So I just made a sort of tapered brush. This is the first version of it, but later on I actually make a new version which has the texture to it and is actually a bit softer than the original hard-edged brush. And from that, after that, I just continue to use the newer version of my custom leaf grass brush thing. I end up quite happy with the left side of the picture, but for some reason I can't seem to match it with the right side. I know it kind of looks the same, but it just kind of annoyed me. It didn't quite go together as nicely as the left side did, so you see me fiddling around, like blurring things back in and painting back over again, trying to achieve the same pleasant look that I got on the other side. In the end it gets close enough, and you know, I don't know how to make it look exactly the same anyway, and grass isn't always the same, so you know, chaos, random stuff. Grass is different. Yay. Now I'm going to add some flowers into the picture. I use a custom cloud brush that I made some time ago, and then I shade over top of it with another custom brush, which I simply called Splodge. I don't know. It was spongy sort of looking brush. Anyway, they're both custom brushes I made. If you wanted something similar to this, you could quite easily use the watercolor brush, which is a standard brush that comes with Artflow, and use that instead. They're just supposed to look like the little puffy sort of papery looking flowers, so I didn't need to detail them too much. And then I just added little stalks in and erased away the these sort of more solid ends to them, so they look more integrated with the grass. Later on in the video, I do decide I made these flowers too big and that it made the character look smaller in comparison. So I do actually have to resize all of these flowers, including the ones I'm painting at the moment in the very front of the picture. So they do all end up a little bit smaller than they are currently. I now return to colouring the character again, so for the next little while I will just be using the same method I was previously, just using the bamboo pen and the felt marker smudge tool to paint the character. It's about time I actually painted these bears. I don't spend too much time on them because they will be a bit out of focus. I just used a flat brush, paintbrush to add a fur texture. I was actually quite pleased with how easy it was to use this brush and how quickly I achieved a fuzzy furry look. So I just start with like a mix of dark and mid tones and sort of blur them in together. and then paint back over them, adding more defined sort of chunks of fur. I also do decide to add sort of like a halo of fuzz around the outside, since you are looking from behind the bears and the sun's coming from like the front of them, so there would be a little bit of a halo, and I wanted them to look extra fuzzy since they are at least supposed to be youngish bears, so I add this little halo thing going on here. And now start integrating the background over top of the character and making sure the layers are all in the correct place. So I add little bits of grass that come out between the toes of the character and would sit in front of the character. I also am now going to be adding the shadow layer. Using the round marker, I turn the layer to multiply and I just color over top with a darker green color, and then erase and blur where I want more dark or more light places. I also add this very bright yellowy color, again because the light is coming from behind the character. I only want the light to be around the edges and not over the whole body of the character. And I add in the shadow cast from the dragon. And in my opinion, that shadow makes a whole bunch of difference. I kind of feel like it sort of set the whole sort of lighting feel to this picture is adding that shadow in, so I'm glad I did remember to do it. And then remember, I've literally not done anything to the sky since the original gradient sketch, so I now start working on the sky a little bit, and I use the felt marker to paint with and to blur with at the same time, so I kind of just going between the two until I'm happy with how the sun and sky look. I decide the bears are still a tiny bit too big and I make them smaller, and now you'll also see me adjusting the size of the flowers. I now have a lot more space to fill, so I do just copy some random spaces or selections of flowers and add them in again to increase their numbers back in, and I reduce the size of the flowers that are right at the very front of the picture and fix up any areas where flowers have been cut in half due to them originally being on the edge of the picture. Add a final light gradient to the picture to set a more sort of warm feel. I saved both versions, the version with the gradient and the version without, but I think the one with the gradient sort of has a better warm sort of spring feel. So here it is, here's the finished picture. I hope you like it, Xanti. As usual, it was lots of fun to do, and I look forward to doing the next one for you. Thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me. See you all next time. Bye.